Piano Rock, a group piano class that rocks for ages 7 to adult. I am Dave Simon of Dave Simon's Music Enterprise, and in today's webinar, we're going to talk all about my new group piano class and how it can help your business and help get kids excited about playing the piano. Let's take a look at the program, but first I want you to take a quick costume change. I want you to take off your musician hat and put on your business owner hat. We really need to look at this situation from the perspective of a CEO. Let's look at group lessons versus private lessons. What are the implications for your business? And this just kind of here quickly shows the type of profits that you can generate from group classes as opposed to private lessons. One student in your private lessons is generating, let's say a $100 profit here in this example. So that's it's a profit margin of 50% when you look at the payroll expense. But when you look at the payroll expense of a single student in your group classes paying the same amount, it's almost double. The profit is almost double of what a single student in private lessons makes. So it's pretty apparent that from a business perspective alone, the group class is the way to go. But you put your musician hat back on, and then you're confronted with a few other questions. Let's look at group versus private lessons and what the implications are for kids. What is best for the child? Let's look at some negative perceptions that people have of group lessons. People perceive group lessons as being of lower value. There's less one-on-one time. There's no denying that. It's less individualized. There's the skill discrepancies in the group or in the class can slow the process down. And it also, group lessons don't live up to the expectation that parents have. You know, when a mom's thinking about signing her daughter up for piano lessons, she has this image in her mind, of her daughter. She's in the lesson and she's there with her nurturing teacher. And then when they call up for that and you say, well, let me tell you about our group classes, you have to persuade this mom that, in fact, the group class will be of greater benefit to your daughter. And that's the big challenge. But what if parents and kids perceive the group class as something that's more desirable and fun than the private lesson? And what if group classes provided an experience that cannot be replicated in a private lesson? Sort of like if you go to a batting coach to work on your swing, you can work on your swing, but the whole experience of dealing with an entire game, you can't create that with the private coach. So it's obviously very specialized, very individualized, and that's what private lessons do. It only allows kids to see a small fraction of what the musical experience can be. And what if recitals weren't these boring recitals, but they were entertaining concerts? And look, I don't care how great your students are. Recitals get boring. Parents, they just want to see their kid and leave. But if you can turn that into a concert, something a little bit more exciting than your typical recital, that also could be a very appealing offering. And what if group classes created a social experience that was built on teamwork? A lot of group piano classes, maybe kids are doing things, individually, or they're playing together in the class as a group. But what if the group class actually is a band, is a performing entity? Here's what would happen to your studio. Your payroll expenses would decrease, your retention would improve. If your customers perceive group as something that's of greater value than private lessons, maybe some of those kids that are dropping out of private lessons, had they been in a group program that they perceive as fun and exhilarating, they would have stayed. Your retention, would be better. And you would no longer have to rely on a high volume business. Private lesson, a studio that's purely private lessons has to rely on a lot of students. And your business would also be more profitable. 100 kids in student lessons is one business. Another student has 100 students all in group. It's a much more profitable business. So let's talk about Piano Rock. Let me move, wait a minute. Let me move. Here I am. I'm going to kind of hang out here on this kid's keyboard. Piano Rock is a 60-minute group piano class that allows kids to perform as an all-keyboard rock band. Kids are taught the practical skills needed to play pop and rock songs from a chord chart and improvise in a jam session. Students are strongly encouraged to practice. Here's where the controversy is going to kick in, people. But it's fine if they don't. They can still be in the band. What if practice becomes optional? What if kids who don't practice can still participate and parents buy into that idea? How many times do kids drop out of your studio because mom's saying, well, my kid's not practicing? We're going to pull them out. That's a part of the deal. We're paying all this money. We expect you to expect them to practice, and we expect our child to practice. What if you can persuade mom that this group class, it's okay if they don't practice? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Each song, and how is that even possible? How can a kid be in this program and not practice? Well, here's how. Each song contains 4 separate piano parts to accommodate both the complete beginner and the more advanced students. Children who practice will simply play the more advanced parts. And children who don't practice, there will be sheet music written out for them that they can come in and play and keep up with the group each week. But that kid who doesn't practice is going to look next to the kid next to him who's practicing and sees that that kid is playing a more advanced part, and that part sounds really cool, and that kid's going to come up to you and say, hey, I want to play that part. Hey, that's great. You know, show me that you can really master the part that you're working on, work your way up to the next level, and then that next level is what that kid's playing. You're going to have to work on that on your own. You don't even have to talk about practice because there's clear goals in the program. Kids, there's positive peer pressure that motivates kids to want to play the more advanced parts. Their goals are sitting right there in front of them. Piano Rock includes, let me move back up here. Piano Rock includes songbooks, it's for the students, an operations manual for the teacher, drum, bass, and guitar music for accompaniment. So there's a whole separate score for drummers, bassists, and guitar players. Now look, the class doesn't involve that. It's the performances. You have sheet music where you have the option to bring in additional musicians. Maybe they're students in your studio, your staff, maybe a couple friends. And if you don't have that ability, not a problem. Also with the program comes backing tracks for the classroom and for the concerts. The backing tracks are used in teaching. You can use them in concert as well. And then marketing materials that I provide with the program. So now we're taking a look at song 1. We're in the songbook, and we're looking at the verse of the song. Here you can see we've got 4 different piano parts. You can't see it on the left of the screen, but it says piano 1 over there. So at the very top, you see the piano 1 part is written out in rhythmic notation. So there's flat head notes. Same with the bass. Doesn't indicate the note name. Up above, it says the chord, and the kids are going to learn how to interpret that and what to do. And we're going to look at how that's done in a minute. Piano 2 looks just like piano 1. You got these, C major, D minor chord, all quarter notes, but now we have written out a moving bass line. Still pretty easy. A beginner with a little bit of work could get that. Piano 3, that's the melody. The melody is always in piano 3. And it also says, we have the bass notes written out, and it says there's a little note saying the student has the option to play the left hand as just the bass note or the full note. The kid playing piano 3 really knows chords now because they've gone through piano 1 and 2. And then piano 4 is for improvisation. It says, here are these 4 notes, and here's some little tips about how to improvise. Now, if you are more of a traditional classical teacher, and your ability to play chords from just hearing the name is a challenge for you, not a problem. There's going to be directions in the operations manual as to how to teach yourself and students an easy way to play any chord in the world. If you've never, or improvisation is not really your thing, if you're not comfortable with it, not a problem. In the operations manual, it's going to map out a 4-step process for teaching kids to improvise. Here's the chorus of the song. And now we can see piano 1, piano 2 written out there. You see, chords start moving quicker. Rhythm is a little bit more demanding now, but nothing too crazy. Piano 2, the bass becomes a little more interesting. And in piano 4, we now have this idea of chord inversions, and it's written out. It also says up above, second inversion, third inversion, because we want students to be able to hear G first inversion and they know what to do. And again, if you're not used to operating that way, not a problem. Operations manual is going to create out a very simple system so you and the student can easily get these chord inversions moving. Okay, now we're taking a look at the operations manual. Now we're inside of it, and it starts out with the teaching philosophy behind Piano Rock. I think now it'd be good to kind of read through this. It says, Piano Rock is based on how children learn a language by listening, imitating, and speaking. Once those things happen, then the whole idea of reading comes into play. For whatever reason, in music education, especially piano, the kid comes into their first lesson. They don't know anything about music. They can't speak music. They can't play music. They can't express themselves in music. And we open up a book and we teach them how to read. Whoa, wait a minute. Let's get them playing. Let's get them playing as quickly as possible so that they have their perception that playing an instrument is fun. It's fun and easy to do for them. And Piano Rock takes this idea of listening and imitating and speaking, the idea of by learning music like a language, and it applies it to music education using this 3-step process. The 3-step process is 1, play it, 2, name it, and 3, read it. So the teacher would go up to a student and say, student, play this. And he plays, a C and an E, a dyad from the C major chord. And the kid plays it back. All right, kid, this is, these are 2 notes from a C major chord. They're C and they're E. And then the kid plays it again. Good. Now we're going to read it. And written up there on the page is C and the E. And teacher goes, look, this is C and this is E. Let me hear you play it. Play it. So the kid played it first. It sells the child on the idea that they can do it. And then name it. It gives, it gives the kid some context as to what this thing is called. And here's what it looks like on the page. Piano Rock also uses a basic 3-step framework for teaching. The 3-step framework is 1, instruct, 2, question, 3, gamify. So, for example, hey, Billy, I want you to play again the notes C and E. And the kid plays it again. Good. What's the name of that chord you're playing? Right, it's a C major. And what are 2 of the notes that you're playing? C and E. Good, right. They're C and they're E. Quick game. Let me hear you play the note C 1 time. Let me hear you play the note E 2 times. Let me hear you play E and C. Good. Now let me hear you play them together, C and E at the same time. I gamified it. I instructed the student. I questioned the student to show me that they comprehend it, and then I made up a quick game. Great way in general to teach. Let's look at teaching chords. So in Piano Rock, this is how chords are communicated. Some of what I'm about to read now might be obvious to you, perhaps it isn't. Basic chords or triads are comprised of 3 notes. These notes are referred to as the root, the third, and the fifth. In Piano Rock, the chords are not spelled out unless a specific voicing is required. Chords are indicated by chord names and flat head notes. So that's what we see here. It's the top. Everything's got that flat head, and it's really the student interprets what they want to do. They could play the full chord in the right hand and a bass note in the left hand. They could maybe play just two of the notes of that D minor chord in the right hand, and then the full D minor chord in their left hand. So it really, allows the kid to insert their own opinion and their own personality and their own taste into the music. So how do these kids play chords if they don't know how to read? They don't know anything about music. Here's how. Students will figure out the notes for each chord. So they have to figure it out. You don't tell them how to play the chords. Yes, an example I was using, I was telling the kid what notes to play, but once they learn this formula, you can just call out a chord name and they'll build it. Here's the formula. Major chords, the student counts 4 and they count 3. In a minor chord, they count 3 and count 4. Whoa, wait a minute. What does that mean? Count 4 means count 4 half steps up from the root note of the chord. So if you're on D and you count 4 half steps up, that's F. There's your minor third. And then from the minor third, you say to the student, now count 3 step or count 3. And count 3 means they're going to go, they're going to count 3 half steps up from there. And that's how they do it. So, all right, guys, we're going to build a D major chord. We got to count. Well, who knows? What's the formula for major chords? Right. Count 4 and count 3. Really quick. The next chord's E minor. So who knows what's the formula for an E minor chord? Count 3, count 4. Get to work on it. So the students use that formula and they build their own chords. And they don't have to read anything off of the page. Okay, now here's just some instructions about Piano 4. Piano 4 is an advanced part where there's improvisation going on. There's chord inversions going on. And all throughout the operations manual, it says, here's an idea. Now here's some teaching tips on how to implement it. We're also going to see if you've got Kids Rock or Junior Rockers, all through the operations manual, there's lots of scripts. Same in here. There's going to be scripts for everything. You don't have to memorize them, but by reading them, it will give you a sense of how these ideas can be put into play, and you can use some of those ideas in your own teaching. So here's how you teach kids how to improvise. You're going to use them. You use the notes indicated in the first 4 beats of the first measure of the Piano 4 part. That's what they're going to improvise with. So the students are going to make up different, use different note combinations to write their own melodies on the spot. And these measure lengths below, these are just suggestions. They don't have to literally do this. And you want to model this for your student. I wish I was at a piano right now. You're going to say to your student, play slower than the group when you begin your improvisation. Now, actually, you want to say, okay, you just play these 4 notes. Now I want you to come up with different combinations of these notes, but I want you to play slower than the group. So the group's playing quarter notes, so the kid's going to be using half notes and whole notes. You don't tell them the name of those rhythms. You're going to model it for the student. And then after doing that for a little bit, I then want you to start to play as fast as the group. Quarter notes. And then for maybe the kid is more comfortable with this, they can then transition to playing faster than the group, or 8th notes. So the kid comes out playing the simple melody, or you model it for them. You just make up some note combinations with whole and half notes, transition to quarter notes, and then if you want, transition to I would do more of a combination of 8th notes and quarter notes. All right, let's move onward. Here's a script here about how the teacher would teach a D minor chord. So all throughout the manual, there's scripts everywhere. So here's what moms think of Piano Rock. Allison Goldstein said, Orly said she learned more in 45 minutes than all quarter in her keyboarding class. Yeah, because Orly, I just threw her in there. And it was all like, do this, do that, do this. The thing you played is called this, and here's what it is on the page. And her mom comes in 45 minutes later, and her daughter's playing in time along with the drum beat, playing chords and improvising. She learned more in 45 minutes than she had all year, and she experienced more in 45 minutes than she had all year. Lisa Burton says, my daughter really enjoyed her first class and learned a lot. She is looking forward to her second class and now wants us to buy a piano. That to me is a sign of a kid who's getting excited to play music. That's only after one class. Okay, so here's a limited time offer for Piano Rock. If you were this is the beta version of Piano Rock. Reserve your beta version program today for it's only $180 a month. It will go up to $220 once it's out of that non-beta model, but you will be locked in at $180. You know, let's say you're charging $200 a month. You know, this is a 60-minute long program, so you should be able to cover that licensing fee within your first student. I'll ask for a one-time deposit of $100 to secure a license for a 5-mile protective radius. So what you'll get is a Piano Rock starter program. That's going to ship on January 15th. That's going to be enough to get your marketing going, get a class up on its feet, have your operations manual, but not all of it. Enough of it to hold you for a few months. But then March 1st, really, 6 weeks later, then the complete program ships. So the initial program is going to have a nice folder with half of the program in there. And then the books will come out on March 1st. I'm offering 100% refund if you're not pleased with the program after 30 days of running it. And but this offer expires on the 23rd of this month, so it's on Monday. Look, you got nothing to lose. I mean, you put down your money for your first month, and if you're not happy with it, I'll refund your money. You at least gave it a try. But I'm confident that this program is going to just blow the kids' minds. I mean, the kids that I'm seeing doing it, they're loving it. They can't believe what they're capable of doing. Sometimes we try to over-educate our students. We become too academic on the front end, and we don't focus on the experience, and their perception is, yep, playing the piano is hard. I had a feeling it might be. I feared that it might be, and it really is. You want that your kids coming out after their first class and going, man, that was like way beyond anything that I expected. Especially if you can get them improvising on their first class, because that's an idea they didn't even understand before. So you introduce this idea of making music up on the spot, which is a very intimidating idea for a kid, and then they're doing it and they can't get over how awesome it sounds. It's a life-changing moment. These kids love it. And check out, if you haven't heard the audio of some of my classes, email me, dave@davesimonsmusic.com. I'll send you an audio. I'll also send you a sample of the sheet music. Look forward to hearing from you.